We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is a pre-recorded show, talking to Toon with me, Sid, and Rob, who joins us halfway through. Good evening, Sid.
How are you doing?
All good, mate. All good. End of the season, and next week we'll be doing a season review. But we signed off with a big win against Brentford. Comprehensive first half, nail-biting second half. With eyes on Brighton as well, with Manchester United's result. But I guess let's go back first of all and look at that Man United game, mate. I mean, it was you know what, an overreaction I felt on social media. You might disagree with me, but I genuinely felt it was an overreaction. We had 20 shots on goal at Old Trafford. We scored 2 goals. We let 3 in. It's the signature of our season. We gave it a go. You know, we didn't have Isak firing on all cylinders. We didn't have Callum Wilson, so we didn't have an opportunity to bring Callum Wilson on. We had our issues, but we gave it a go. It was disappointing. It felt, you know, like our world had ended. But against Brentford, mate, a lot better.
Yeah, it's a match of 2 halves. 2 matches of 2 halves, if you like. I was really disappointed with Man United. I still am. I'm still a bit gutted, if I'm being perfectly honest. I thought we should have battered them. I really do, and I'll still stick by that. My thoughts basically is that we've got an inferiority complex against certain teams. Manchester United sometimes being one of them. Liverpool is definitely the other, which I've harped on a number of occasions on this show. And I feel there are some players who need to sort of look long and hard with regards to how they perform against some of the I wouldn't even say bigger teams, if you like, because Man United are terrible.
Yeah.
But bigger clubs, if you like, in terms of their heritage, in terms of recent history. And I say recent history because before the takeovers, Newcastle had more trophies combined than Chelsea and Manchester City. Let's just put that back out there again, which people seem to forget. So I think it's that there is an inferiority complex with some of those players, and I genuinely think that they either have to change their mindset, and you can do that in terms of inside the club, in terms of talking to psychologists and all of that sort of thing. Sorry, my screen's just flashed something up here. And then, or if you can't cope with it, go. And I think it really is that as well. And it's brutal, but you have to be brutal to get to the top. You know, and I do think there are a number of players who just sort of cave in. And I'm not going to go about naming names. I think we know some of them. But I just feel that there is a sense of inferiority with some of them. And I think they went at the Man United game with a little sense of trepidation, where they should have went in thinking, right, we're going to batter these because these are garbage. And they are, let's be perfectly honest, not very good. It was the best time. We all said it was the best time to play Manchester United. And we failed. Let's be honest, we failed, and we came away hampered by some decisions. I thought that the decision on Gordon is absolutely farcical.
Yeah.
The fact that he's had to miss the game against Brentford tells you all you need to know about how serious that injury was. And he wasn't the same for the rest of the game, even though he scored. And I thought it was an atrocious decision, which backs up my thoughts of getting rid of VAR, because as Anthony Gordon maturely said, if it's not doing its job, what's the purpose of VAR? You know, if they're not spotting clear and obvious decisions, and that's it. It's only there to be intercept, clear and obvious, and that was a clear and obvious decision. You know, and I don't understand. Well, we do know why they don't get given. You know, yeah. I mean, was it last year? And if I'm wrong, I do apologise, but I'm pretty sure when our stats I seen last year, Liverpool were so many points better off because of VAR that they wouldn't have qualified for Europe.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, which is just insane. So that tells you all you need to know with regards to attitudes by people who do the VAR thing and their fear of certain clubs. But going back to fear of Newcastle United's players, I mean, if we go back to the cup final when we played Man United, there was a sense of trepidation in that final as well. Players went in with a sense of almost already being beaten before they went on the pitch. And I felt that was the same way on Wednesday night. I felt the same, you know, and I thought, oh, how weird, man. We could have beaten them. We should have beaten them. Yes, we had loads of chances. Dubravka was terrible again. And I know I've got somebody made some comments about my thoughts about Dubravka the other day, saying I was slaughtering him. Well, sadly, I feel I've been proven right, you know. And without a doubt, in my thoughts, and again, I'm open to be shot down because these are just my opinions and they're not correct, they're just my views, is that I feel that we would have been 10 points better off, or we would have qualified for possibly Champions League without Dubravka in goal if we'd kept Nick Pope fit. He's that big a difference maker.
He's a great shot stopper, Nick Pope, but his kicking is awful. Unfortunately, but
he commands the area and he reads the game really, really well behind the front four, and they have so much confidence in him. And the flip side, because when I did my greatest 11, I picked him in goal. His throwing is fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say that because obviously you know, like what I don't want people to misinterpret that. I don't think he's a bad keeper. I think he's a great keeper. I think we need another keeper of his stamp alongside him, you know, to give him a bit of competition.
Who's better with his feet? Yeah,
you need somebody like that. But very rarely do you get a goalkeeper that has everything. It doesn't, you know, they very rarely exist. You either get a goalkeeper who's a good shot stopper and whose distribution's not as good, which is probably Pope. I wouldn't say it's the worst kicking I've ever seen, but it's not. He'll tell you it's not his strongest asset.
It's not Tim Krull's standard kicking, though, is it?
But then you've got Tim Krull, who, you know, was quite good like that as well. 2 seconds. I've just got to have a quick break, Sid. I'll be back. So that won't seem as if we've gone away and had an advert break, because on StreamYard these days you can pause things. And I actually had somebody at the house who was coming in to finish a job off, and he just popped his head round the corner to see it finished. So I had to pause it. So there you go, something a bit new on NUFC Matters Tonight. So I think we've talked about Manchester United. Let's look at the Brentford match. It was a game which, for me personally, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a typical end of season game, and I made a comment on Friday that we do tend to play well on the last day of the season. Whether we've been relegated and we whopped Spurs 5-1, or whether we go away to somewhere like Fulham and win 3-0. London and Brentford has been a bit of a happy hunting ground for us as well over the years. So, you know, I was confident going into the game, although I felt it could have been a bit closer. I felt 2-1. And when we cruised into that 3-0 lead, I still felt Brentford get a goal. Yeah, it's that Stockholm syndrome. But ultimately, you know, we did the job. And despite Brentford coming back to 3-2, the fourth goal finished them off. And Newcastle got the 3 points. And with Manchester United, of course, winning, it didn't matter. We still finished above them. And I've got to be honest, I was happy with the performance on Sunday after the Man United game. The
last game of the season seems to be our like antithesis of Boxing Day, where we always do terrible. So yeah, it was great. It was a great performance, great result. I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't. I thought we'd get a draw. I went with 2-2 before the game. So because I think they're a pretty decent team, actually. They've got a lot going up front. I really like Brian Mbeumo. I think he's a super player. I think Tony's a good goal scorer. In fact, Tony's goal that was disallowed, I'm still not sure why it was disallowed. I couldn't figure it out.
Offside. Offside. I mean, I watched it back on Match of the Day about half an hour ago, mate, just to double check before we came on.
I still couldn't see it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. It's one of those shadows things, isn't it?
I couldn't see I was being offside either. With Longstaff, I couldn't see that either. So I looked at both and I'm thinking, is it me being stupid? Mind you, the line on the pitch was like that. Or it wasn't straight. It was like odd. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the automated offside thing next year. That'll be so much better and fairer, you know. Yeah, it was a good game, great performance. I mean, 3-0, I was thinking this is going to be another 8-0. I thought we were going to absolutely thrash them to hell. They played so well in that first half, so well. I mean, Big Joe, what a difference maker he is, isn't he? You know, and actually Eddie Howe, I think he described him after the match as a colossus, something along those lines. He's a colossus for us, and he was right. He is. He's just a destroyer. He's a proper midfield destroyer who can play. Mind you, he missed an absolute sitter from about 5 yards out. It was a shocker. But he had a great game. He's a massive game changer, and it was noticeable how fit Isak was again. He was clearly over the illness that he's had, and he was magnificent. He tore them to bits. That little burst of pace that he's got from standing still to 5 yards is just great. He just runs away from the opposition, tore them apart. And Murphy was also, again, he had one of those excellent games. I mean, Murphy's stats, I was reading the other day, Murphy's had more assists this season than Miggy's had in his whole career at the club, which tells you all you need to know as far as I'm concerned. And he had a cracking game, an absolute cracking game. And Bruno, again, just, they give him so much space, it was ridiculous. So he's just dictating play. Up front, really, really good. Their second goal, you have to hold your hand up sometimes and just say, great goal. You know, what can you do? The guy's bent it in from 25 yards and Pope didn't have a chance. So you think, right, fair dues. So, yeah, and the penalty that should have happened at the end, the young lad, what's his name again?
Lewis Hall?
Lewis Hall. I was going to call him Lewis there. Lewis Hall was on through goal. The guy touched his foot. He had 1 foot in the box. That's a penalty. That is a penalty by any rule. That is a penalty. I don't understand it. I don't care if he's one leg's outside the box, the other leg's inside the box. It's a penalty. So it should have been a penalty. And I was delighted when Bruno got the rebound because that was such an unjust decision. It was so poor. I mean, even the guy commentating, the old Aston Villa guy, Lee
Henry.
My memory's terrible with names. He goes, that's a disgraceful decision. He goes, I can't understand it. He goes, it's a penalty. He says, I won't understand that. That's a penalty, and it was a penalty. And just such a good free kick, good save, and great with Bruno out on the rebound. We absolutely deserved to win the game from start to finish. We absolutely dominated them, and they're not, as I say, not a bad little team. So delighted with the performance. Leaves you on a bit of a high. 7th. So is what I'm going to say. Not bad, pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, the 2 Brentford goals were both good goals. Ivan Toney's challenge, I thought, was a disgrace against Bruno. A few people saying it was a fair challenge. It wasn't. It wasn't a fair challenge, and it was a bad tempered challenge, which could have really resulted in Bruno being severely injured. You know, and fair play for Bruno for not going back in on him, because the temptation there from a Bruno that we signed would have been to go back and get retribution, and he didn't. He did the mature thing, picked himself up, and punished Brentford with a performance with 2 assists and a goal.
I'm surprised Big Joe didn't kick him up in the air.
Yes, yeah. He does tend to stick up for his mate, doesn't he, Big Joe? So,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Brentford, as I say, I like Brentford as well. I think it's a great story for the Premier League. The fact that they've increased their ground. And their ground's a lovely, lovely little ground. And it's a ground that can clearly be changed to accommodate more people as well in that part of a very affluent part of London. So they could theoretically become a bigger team. So I'm all for that, actually. I like them. I like them. And I like that I like the way that they've built themselves up as a team. No problems with them at all. And what was really lovely at the end of the match, all their fans stayed, even though they got drubbed, and had a big sing-song. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, because there's a number of teams where they got drubbed in the last game of the season who'd have had an empty stadium. I'm not going to mention the words. Oh, sorry, Sunderland slipped out my mouth there. But that, you know what I mean. It's yeah, well done to them in terms of their fans, but well done to Newcastle. Tremendous performance, just great. Good performances all round.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was good to see Nick Pope back in. Good to see Joe Linton. It was very much a case for me of what might have been. You've already mentioned the injuries and things that we had. But yeah, I also got a feeling with Bruno's, particular farewell at the end. It wasn't an emotional Bruno that we saw at the end of the game. It was it looked as if a committed Bruno there. He's going to stay. I think. I don't think we'll lose them. And I've got to be honest. This week after the home game, Bruno's sitting looking morose on the sideline, and when everyone's going round a lot. Like I said last week, we can look at that and say, a picture can lie. The way that Bruno marched around the pitch with his teammates yesterday tells me he'll be back. And his tweets yesterday as well, his messages on his social media about hoping we'll get European football next season. None of that speaks of a man who wants to leave. No. If he does go, it'll be because the club wants to take the money and wants to sell him and wants to invest it. It'll not be because Bruno wants to leave.
No, I agree, and the club has to be ruthless with other players in terms of saleable assets, and I hope they are. And he's a player you can't afford to lose, and even more so Isak, pair of them, and obviously Anthony Gordon, who's been nothing short of magnificent. Those are the three players you've got to hang on to. Got to hang on to those players. As I say, I mean, what really infuriated me over the weekend was listening to bloody Paul Merson spout his usual garbage. Oh, well, if I was Arsenal, I'd go out and get Isak. What do you mean, go out and get him? What are you going to do? And they're talking like, oh, well, 80 million. What? We paid 64 for him. It's like, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't think Newcastle listened to anything less than 140 million for him, and I don't think they should. Because to me, he's the best striker in the Premier League. You could argue that Haaland would score more goals, but as an overall player, Isak's a better footballer, and will offer more and create more assists. So, nah, it's not happening for me. It's what we need is another centre forward who's actually fit on a regular basis, rather than what's been happening with Callum Wilson, unfortunately, who's just not reliable. And it's unfortunate because he's a super player.
And let's remember as well, Alexander Isak is third top goal scorer this season in the Premier League. Erling Haaland, 27 goals. Cole Palmer, 22. Alexander Isak, 21. And the names that, Isak finished above: Ollie Watkins, Phil Foden, Dominic Solanke, Mo Salah, Son Heung-min, Bukayo Saka, Jared Bowen, John Philip Mateta, who, obviously, did well on the final day of the season. And Nicholas Jackson as well. And special mention for Chris Wood, 14 Premier League goals.
I think 14, that's fair dues. Like, I'll sort of take my hat off to him. Actually, that's pretty decent. That's a decent return.
It is.
And Steve,
what we could have done with Chris Wood's goals, when you think about some of the driftwood we kept a hold of, pardon the pun, and we let Chris Wood go, I think Chris Wood would have quite happily sat on the bench and took the money and made the odd appearance in that team, because he got on well. He was a big character in the dressing room, I think. And especially I remember how never gives much away. He's never going to say, I want to get rid of this player and I want to get rid of that player. He's always about keeping the levelness in the dressing room. But he genuinely looked upset when he got rid of Chris Wood. And I do think in certain games, Chris Wood would have been massively beneficial.
We didn't play to his strengths, Steve. We didn't have players. Ironically, now you've got Murphy, who would actually whip balls in with his right foot. But we didn't have players who crossed the ball to him. And let's be honest, he's ahead. He's used to the head as his sort of main asset.
And we would have beaten Forest 1-0 as well if Chris would have been here.
But we definitely need another centre forward without a shadow of doubt. It's not Chris Wood though, but we definitely need another centre forward. But well done to him though. I'm impressed by that. I didn't realise he was in double figures. So
don't worry. Thursday, I'm going to remain Malcolm and Gibbo. I am going to remain Malcolm and Gibbo on Thursday night.
The lad who looked really impressive to me is the Crystal Palace fella. They're the team in form at the moment. And
you've got Eze Mateta and you've got Michael Elise,
who's magnificent. If they keep hold of those players, it's a big if, because they've got two good centre halves as well. If they've got five, in fact 6, if you include the young lad, is it Wharton in the middle? They've got 6 super players. If they keep all of them fit next year, they could do really, really well. I don't think
they'll keep a hold of them though. I think that's the problem. And even the manager, in his post-match interviews, he said, hopefully this is where they'll want to stay. But he was realistic. Yeah, I think he knows that he's going to lose at least 1, maybe 2 of those players. It's a similar thing at Brighton. I mean, that's why they've lost De Zerbi, because ultimately there's a clear difference in how De Zerbi wants to run things and how the owner wants to run things. And De Zerbi's got to look after his own reputation as well. He's looking at this going, how much longer can I run a team where we sell our best players every summer? You know what I mean? It's
just fair enough. Like, I think that's a fair point. It is a fair point, if that's your job and you're thinking, well, I can't keep churning players out all of the time, or we can't do that. And you can't. It's not feasible to constantly find gems, is it?
Yeah, it's true. You mentioned, you've spoken about Jacob Murphy, you've spoken about Alexander Isak and Bruno today. We haven't really touched on Harvey Barnes, who's had an injury hit season. Unfortunately for him, missed a vast amount of the season, 20 plus games I think he missed in total. But when he's come back, and I know he's had a little period where he's been in and out, even in this back end of the season, he scored some goals. He scored 5 Premier League goals in his first season for Newcastle United. Would have scored a lot more, I think. He was brought in because he could score goals. I like what I saw yesterday, and it was a good finish. And again, it gives you that feeling that potentially, if needed, if we couldn't get the striker, there's a role there for him through the middle as well.
Yes, I thought that as well, because I've not seen enough from him in terms of his overall game. But he scores goals. He scores goals, and goals win prizes. And but he does score goals. And to be fair, he's contributed more than Maxi has in a few seasons with these 5 goals. And he's his replacement, so he's definitely an upgrade. I would just, if he stays fit, I think he would have comfortably been double figures. It would probably be more towards 15 than 5, sorry. So, he's got a lot to offer. As you see, I'd like to see a little bit more in terms of his overall game. And I think you're right. He could be that other alternative centre forward. He does seem to have something about him. His finishing's good. I mean, that headed goal, it was very comfortable. He stuck it in the top corner as well. He slotted it really well. I thought, it was very casual. I was very impressed by him in terms of his finishing. I mean, he's got 2 feet as well, which is good. He can smash them in from 25 yards with both feet, and looks pretty decent in the air. And he's quite quick. He's not a slouch. He's not golden quick, but he's quick. So overall impressed. But we just want to see a little bit more in game time situations with him and contribute a little bit more. Possibly as well see him a little bit on the right on occasions as well, and just varied up a little bit. But he's got a lot to. Next season's a big season for him. It's a make or break season for him next year.
Yeah, no, it is. I agree. Yeah, and I think it is for a few of the players. I mean, Anthony Gordon's been superb this year, but I think it would be nice to have that kind of, just a clear run without the injuries. That's what we want next season. But, just not to be hampered by all these injuries, and have the opportunity to have Gordon, Barnes playing at the same time as Tonali, and Bruno as well, Joe Linton. The options are endless. And like I said,
Anderson and Willock, they've missed the season. Miley, it's a massive. I mean, the midfield looks stacked, absolutely stacked. And there's an argument there's maybe 1 too many. When Tonali comes back. So
I mean, that's why people, it's a nice problem to have. I think that's why a lot of people think that there could be like a big player leave, but I think the big player who probably will leave in the midfield is Almiron, and that means that, you either have a chance for Alfie Harrison or Minte to be part of the first team squad.
Harrison, I know you've thought about, and he looks a proper prospect, doesn't he,
Yeah, or you bring in another player. Michael Elise, £60 million release fee. If he fancies a move up north, Newcastle have to be in with a shout. You know,
he's my top of the list. He's my top preference. Bring him in. Bring him in. He's got 10 goals. And he's got so many assists as well. He looks a superstar in the making.
We missed out, on like Szoboszlai. We're linked with Szoboszlai heavily. There has to have been a case of no smoke without fire. I think we were linked with him as much as we were linked with James Maddison last year.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see who we're linked with. Barry Hogan, who does the fans forum and keeps the list for us. 88 players we've been linked with already.
2 fat ladies.
88.
So we'll not say that anymore, are we?
Well, you're probably not, mate, but it's your opinion. Anyway, we're gonna have a quick break as always on Talk of the Toon, and then we will be bringing in Rob for our musical interlude. Oh, pressed the wrong button, and I don't often do that. That's because I've got so much going on in the background here. Here's the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member, for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today. And it's a big welcome to Rob. How are you, mate?
Excellent. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good. Good to see you.
And you.
Good end of the season for Gator and for Newcastle, mate. Let's hope that Manchester United can get beat in the FA Cup final and we can be looking ahead to Europe again next year.
Exactly.
Okay, so, mate. What have you brought us today?
This was a request by the new HBK. I don't know what that means. Please, if you're watching, let me know what it means. I don't know what it is.
It's not this one, Rob, is it?
Unfortunately, no.
All right, I've gone out and bought it. I'll let you know what I think of that next week.
Yeah, some good demos on that one. Good version. Right, this is Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell 2. It was the new HBK's first album he ever bought. I never knew there was a part 2 to this at all. So this was in 1993. It's a 6th studio album. Meatloaf's name is Marvin Lee Ade. It's called Meatloaf. I've done a wee bit of research. Marvin sort of came home. He was out of hospital. He was in his home bed, wrapped up in a duvet. His dad came in the room and said, "You look wrapped up like a meatloaf." That's simple as that, and it stuck. So this was written and produced by Jim Steinman, who obviously done the first album, Bat Out of Hell. It was a #1 album. Todd Rundgren said we'll recognise that name from XTC. Added arrangements and backing vocals to this as well. So my question for today to Steve and Sid is going to be, what was the first album you bought and where did you buy it? So answers at the end. So track #1 opens with, "I would do anything for love," and in brackets, "but I won't support Sunderland." I won't do that, sorry. Brilliant video to this one, really good. It reminded me of Avatar, just how the nose looked like. A really, really good video. This is the one album that I can't say this sounds like such and such because it's Meatloaf, and there was nothing that I could think of. A couple of little bits, but it's just Meatloaf, simple. Brilliant video, nice piano opening, rock chords, it slows down as soon as the vocal starts. Really powerful, dramatic delivery. Brilliant backing harmonies in this, then full-on hard rock into your second verse. Very strong operatic opener. Then you've got track 2, "Life's a Lemon and I Want My Money Back." It's, again, big sound drums, a bit like John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. Good power chords and keyboards, slinky guitar riffs, slap funk bass in this one, which I wasn't expecting. Nice in the background. It's an 8-minute long song. Again, brilliant second song. A good, honest song about life, you know, the journey of life. Track #3, "Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through." Again, another great opening line. "You can't run away forever." Great fretless bass playing, remind me of Paolo Palladini. I think that's what his name is, play for Paul Young. Gospel style sort of backing vocals, really, really good song. Absolutely brilliant production, like one of the best. Up there with Straits Brothers and Ams, I'd say. It's a nice little cheeky saxophone solo this section as well. Really good song. But track 4, "It Just Won't Quit." Nice piano intro again, so emotional chords, quite atmospheric. It's played beautifully, really good. Rimshot drumming, again, wasn't expecting that. Continuous piano part right through it. A really good commercial sounding song. I think so far it was my best song on the album. And I have to say as well, big hats off to every musician. There's too many to list on this album because you hear Meatloaf and that's what you think and that's what you focus on. But see, the musicianship, the craftsmanship on this is absolutely outstanding. Really, really, really good. You got track 5, "Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire." This did remind me of, I think it's that song, "You Bet, You Bet, You Bet" by The Who. I'm not sure what it's called. Nice sort of tremolo arm sort of effect on the guitar before the big opening. Big voice again, big sound. Great change in direction at the middle 8 section. Really, really good lyrics. Then this track 6, it's called "Objects in the Rearview Mirror May Appear Closer Than They Are." The opening reminds me of a little bit of Art Garfunkel's "Bright Eyes." Now, question to everybody, and I want comments. Who cried when they first watched it? Because I did. Watership Down. I did cry when I watched that. It's sort of more of a softer piano-based ballad. Big chorus again, as per Meatloaf is his staple, isn't it? You got Wasted Youth. Great goth band. Brilliant. Actually, Wasted Youth are a really good goth band, but it's not to do with that. Sort of very haunting spoken word opening. It's about killing someone with a Stratocaster or a Telecaster. It's a horror rock theatrical song. There's bits about Jimi Hendrix, and it's just bizarre, but it's brilliant. I can't mention the name of one of the bands it sounds like, but it's like gothic cabaret horror. It's really, really good. I'm not going to say, what's it called, Rocky Horror, nothing like that, but it's darker, it's deeper. It's really, really good. Really enjoyed it. It's just, it's a bit hectic, but it's great. I really liked it. And you've got Everything Louder Than Everything Else. And I'm sure Lemmy used to use this quote. I don't know if it was on one of his amps, bass amps or something, but it rings a bell. This is an 8-minute anthemic song, big harmony opener, straight into a flat 4 beat, solid again, great vocals. Again, the vocal delivery is bang on. I'd like to know how many takes. I've not done this, how long it took them to make this album, because I don't think you could do. I don't know. It's just the power, the passion, the drive. It just absolutely outstanding. So yeah, then you've got Good Girls Go to Heaven, Bad Girls Go Everywhere. A really good intro, rough saxophone solo, but hip-hopish beat. Again, surprised me. Really nice, clever arrangements by Todd Rundgren. Again, strong backing vocals. I really like the backing vocals. It's just enough. It's not overdone. Really good. Solid again, just a solid bang, bang, bang in your face. There we go. Then you've got Back into Hell. Now this is my favourite song because I'm writing my notes. I've listened to this 4 times, so this is what I'm picking up on it. Gothy horror opening, sort of like a bit of Phantom of the Opera. Piano starts, sort of like a bit like Van Halen Jump, sort of keyboards part on it. Very classical, powerful operatic number. It's very dark and it's an instrumental. Really, really good song. I mean, I wouldn't mind using that to open one of our gigs with. Track 11, Lost Boys and Golden Girls. I think it's a bit of a hidden gem in the album. Emotional intro. Probably, I'd say, Meatloaf's best vocals on the album. Brilliantly controlled, outstanding song. Really, really good album. It's going to get a 9.5 out of 10. I'm very surprised because we've always had that "you don't like Meatloaf, do you?" attitude, sort of going through genres of music people were listening to at the time. And again, the artwork is phenomenal. It's by a fantasy artist called Michael Whelan. He didn't do Bat Out of Hell 1. When I'm thinking of bands, I'll think of Derek Riggs doing Maiden stuff. It's now what's his name? Wilkinson. He used to do Marillions. I've got his art book, but he now is taking over from Iron Maiden. And you've got, there's so many of the artwork. It's great. It'd be a great album to buy in vinyl, put it in a frame, have it on your wall. So it's a 9.5 out of 10. So my little bit of, if you can put it on big screen, Steve, of memorabilia is my latest vinyl purchase. It says Death Cult. That's stunning, isn't it? Death Cult. Death Cult. It was Southern Death Cult, and they're now known the Cult. Brilliant performance on the tube with that. This was a re-release. It just came out 2 days ago. I got it through, but it's from the first album, Dreamtime, and they've redone it now that they're older. But latest purchase. It's absolutely beautiful. Really, really good. So, Steve, Sid, what was your first albums you bought, and where did you buy them?
First album I ever bought was London Calling, which is quite a cool one to have. And I bought it on a school trip in 1980. I think it was February. We went down to London, and I bought it at the HMV in London. And I treasured it all the way on the back of the bus. It cost £5. I'd pay no more than £5 on the front. And I bought it, and I didn't like it when I first played it because I was like properly at the punk, and I didn't see it as a punk album. It's not really a punk album, is it? And of course, as you get older, you appreciate that it's a work of absolute genius. And as your tastes develop and change, and it's in my top 3 favorite ever albums. If I had a gun held to my head, so yeah, that was mine.
That's mine. The Jam in the City, my first album, bought at Sid's record shop.
All right.
and I think I probably bought most of my Jam albums from Sid's place, and most of me Sex Pistols stuff. I used to go in and look for new Sex Pistols imports and stuff like that, picture discs, you name it. I've got them all from Sid's shop. But yeah, the Jam in the City. There's no such thing as a bad Jam album. There's just your favorite order. And once again, if you go to Songs from the Attic, 1977, Sid's channel, me and Sid did a show about that, which was fantastic. But Sid, as always, you bring something to the table, and the boss is in town this week.
Yes, the boss is in town, and it's interesting because we talk about Meatloaf, and of course, on the first Meatloaf album, it's virtually basically Meatloaf and the E Street Band, isn't it? The Bat Out of Hell album. Forgot to mention as well, Lorraine Crosby's on that Bat Out of Hell 2 album. She's from Walker. She sings there. Everything I will do bit. Yeah,
good friend of mine, Lorraine. Yeah, she's
nice,
a great lad.
Good singer. Good singer. Anyway, I've gone with what I think is genuinely the last great Springsteen album, truly great 5-star album, is Tunnel of Love from 1987. It's one of my favorite, if not even my favorite Springsteen album. That sort of changes on a weekly basis, but it's an absolute work of genius. I really do think that. At the time, the reviews were very mixed after Born in the USA, which came out 3 years earlier, which was obviously more of an up-tempo album, although I did have a few slow tracks on it. This is very much mid-paced. It's not really an A Street Band album as such, but they all feature at different times on different songs, but they're not all on one song. So it's a little more solo. It's his divorce album. He was in the process of sort of breaking up with Julianne Phillips and sort of seeing Patti Sciafla, who obviously turned out to be his wife in the end. So he's divorcing his first wife. And it's all that album of what to do, the trouble of being married and then discovering things aren't working, the idea of getting divorced, all these mixed emotions. And it's just a really, truly great album. It's very much more in the Americana style, I would say. There's some cracking songs on it. I mean, 2 of these I used to do in my old band when I was in a blues band, and one of them I still do in a duo. So I Ain't Got You is one I used to do, which he starts off the album. It's like a Bo Diddley type thing, and the harmonic is great. Followed up with Tougher Than the Rest, which is just a fantastic song. It was quite a big international hit. You've then got Spare Parts, which is possibly the most rocky-based song on the album, and a great, superb, good harp on it. About a broken relationship. Walk Like a Man, just a beautiful story, referring to getting married and that, really lovely. Tunnel of Love, which is a great song, and obviously we have the Tunnel of Love song over here as well, of course, in Whitley Beer. It's a sentence about it's sort of sense of bickering within a relationship, and that idea of marriage being on the tunnel of love where it's not straightforward. It is a bit rocky. And then you've got Brilliant Disguise, possibly the best song on the album. I still do that in my duo, The Likely Lads, a little bit of promotion there. About putting on a facade within a relationship. When You're Alone's great. And then it finishes off with this song about a dissolving relationship, which is Valentine's Day, which is just beautiful. What a fantastic end to the album. It really is a truly great album. It really is a great album. It's not an album that's going to make you feel happy, but it's a lovely late night album, walk the dog album sort of thing. It's just fantastic. So yeah, Tunnel of Love, 5 stars, magnificent, work of genius.
And you always come with a book as well, and I notice you've got a book to accompany the album.
I do, yeah, and it's Born to Run, and the audio book's great because Springsteen does it, so he talks it through, and it's fabulous, and he talks about his life and how he made it, and the stories are all very earnest and sincere. It's just, he does it really, really well, actually, really, really well. He's not a big-time Charlie on it. He talks about some of the problems and about the making it. There's also a sort of almost like a sister book by a guy called Mark Dolan called Promise to Rock and Roll. And if you read both of them, they both work so well together, rather bizarrely. Really, really, really well. There's some funny stories. There's a story about Springsteen where he'd never driven before. And his first drive was to drive 3,000 miles with the rest of the band. His first ever band in the van. And he'd never driven. But if you drive in America, you could literally drive 3,000 miles and not go off the road and literally drive straight. Because all the roads are A to B. There's no detours. And so that's basically what he does. And at some point, the van's just about to conk out up some hills. So it's very funny. Some really great anecdotes in it. But yeah, great books. Just a top man and one of the great songwriters of the 20th and 21st centuries, the boss. Great entertainer. Can't wait to see him again on Wednesday night. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Rob, as always, thanks for joining us, mate. We are going to continue intermittently. I think we're talking to Toon through the summer. Not always a great deal to talk about, but you guys as well need a little bit of a break. But we will be continuing swapping the shows around, and we'll see you probably next week for the season review. And then we'll make plans week after week. But thanks for having the time, Rob. As always, see you next week.
Okay,
Take
guys.
care, Rob.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I want to talk about the Australian trip, Sid. Newcastle, after the game on Sunday, have taken a 29-man squad, minus Anthony Gordon, Martin Dubravka, Sean Longstaff, Fabian Shaw, and obviously the injured guys. No place for Tonali either. He can't go because he can't play in public friendlies. Harrison Ashby and Garen Kowal appear, though, following the conclusion of their loans at Swansea City and Volendam, respectively. So the squad that's going out there: goalkeepers Mark Gillespie, Aidan Harris and Nick Pope. Defenders, Harrison Ashby, Dan Byrne, Dylan Charlton, Paul Dummett, Lewis Hall, Emil Kraft, Alex Murphy, Kieran Thompson and Kieran Trippier. In the midfield, we've got Elliot Anderson, Lucas de Bol, Bruno Guimaraes, Travis Hearns, Joe Linton, Jacob Murphy, Matt Ritchie, Ellis Stanton, Jay Turner, Cook and Joe White going. And up front, Miguel Miron, Harvey Barnes, Amadou Diallo, Alexander Isak, Garen Kowal, Ben Parkinson and Callum Wilson. So 29-man squad heading out there. First up is a meeting with Tottenham at Melbourne Cricket Ground on Wednesday. That kicks off at 7:45. And Spurs are advertising a live stream of this game as part of their Spurs Play subscription package. It's unclear whether Newcastle are going to offer anything similar. The Australian-only streaming service 10play have listed live coverage of the game as well. Newcastle then move on to the Docklands area of the city where they'll face A-League All-Stars at the Marvel Stadium on Friday. That starts at 5:05, just like crackerjack, 5 to 5, and which is 8:05 British Summer Time. And Australia-only streaming service 10-player advertising live coverage of that game as well. United's second game, of course, precedes the A-League All-Star women team versus Arsenal women game. What do you make of this? Because Alan Shearer on Match of the Day said it's crazy doing this at the end of the season. But as anyone who watches Those Were the Days with me and George will know that Newcastle often play friendlies at the end of the season. It's not unusual, as Tom Jones used to say.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, it's because of financial fair play, isn't it? Or PSR, we're forced into doing it. I mean, Spurs, who are technically quite rich, if the fact that they're having to do it tells you all that you need to know, because there must be more than £3 million surely involved in it. There must be bigger lump sum than that, I would have thought, for these two games. I mean, the MSG holds about 100,000 for them, where I remember. It's a massive stadium in terms of the cricket. So, wow. I think if it were pre-season, great. And I have no problem with that. Totally understand it. And in fact, I'll be all in favour of it. Going for that side of the world, great. You know, let's extend the fan base. You could do Australia. I know they're doing Japan, which would be great. I would throw in South Korea. It's got a big population. You know, there's an influx of people there. There are certain areas we haven't hit. I mean, India's got 1.3 billion. It's got the most millionaires in the world. You know, so there are certain areas that you could really target. You know, and build up your fan bases. So I have no problem with that at all. But I do have a bit of a problem. The lads have played all season, and then all of a sudden you've been forced to throw 2 games in. And let's be honest as well, the travelling's the hardest part. There's nothing. The travelling's the hardest part, because it is. And people laugh, oh, they've got first class comfort, but it's still tiring. It's still tiring when you get there, and you've got to do the whole jet lag thing, and sort of suddenly start playing and stuff at certain times. And if you struggle with jet lag, fortunately I don't, but I know people who do, and it's obviously a bit of an issue, you know. So, you know, I could see why they wouldn't want to do it, and I wouldn't be overly pleased, thinking that you've just finished, you want to get your flip-flops on and hop onto the beach, and then all of a sudden, sorry lads, we've got 2 more games, whilst everybody else is out of the country and doing photographs on God knows on Instagram in the middle of the Bahamas. So yeah, I can see why they don't want to do it. But financially, the club clearly must be close to PSR, and I suspect this might get them over the line to sort of get through the next financial year, where I'm sure there will be lots more money coming in with regards to sort of new sponsorship deals. So I suspect it's just to get over the line.
Kieran Trippier spoke out against it, but he's going. You know, I mean, I've got to be honest. At the end of the season, for me personally, I'll be thinking, "Wow, trip to Australia, that's nice." You know what I mean? And it's the last chance to relax and have a bit chill out with the lads before you go off on your holidays. It's
they aren't going to take it serious, are they? They aren't going to be taking it serious, like, you know, come on, lads, we've got to win this game. I mean, who cares? Let's be honest, who cares? Exactly. You know, it's just like a bit of exercise, bit of fun. Be nice to see the young lads getting some game time, Harrison and all the rest of it, you know. Give them a game, give them a bit of time, give them a bit of sort of time on the pitch, see what they're like. I have no problems with that whatsoever. Interesting to see why some of the other players aren't going. Why is Longstaff not gone? I don't understand that.
He's injured, isn't he? He's injured. Oh. I mean, he's not been playing on full gas for weeks, and I genuinely think he's been given a bye. Gordon hasn't gone because he didn't. I mean, he didn't play yesterday. Yeah. Gordon's been given every chance he can to be involved in the selection process tomorrow for England. I would imagine that, you know, I would imagine he will be picked in Southgate's first squad, and will obviously just have to prove his fitness when he turns up. But ultimately, I'm surprised to see Trippier going. I am surprised to see Trippier there, mate. Especially with him speaking out against the trip itself, and I still, I've said
he's one of the leaders, though, isn't he? And technically speaking, if Lascelles isn't there, he's the leader of the club, so he's got to be there. He's got to be there. Otherwise, what does that send as a message to the juniors? What does that say to the rest of the team? If the captain can't be bothered to turn up, I mean, that doesn't send out a great message. So I can see why they're kicking off over it. I really can. But as you say, nice little trip to Australia. But the travelling is a real drag. If it had been in a week's time, I would have said, yeah, fair enough. They've got a few days off. They can have a sort of get acclimatized and then have a couple of games. But they're literally just there, a couple of games and then straight back again on. There's no, I don't think there's any sort of viewing. They're not. I'd be surprised if they're going to go and tootle onto the streets of Ramsey Street and stuff and have a look around, So no.
Couple of other stories that broke over the weekend. Mike Ashley, of course, Friday saw the 3 appeal court judges.
I did laugh.
Sports Direct appeal against losing an injunction forcing Newcastle to supply the replica kits. They've upheld the decision. It means the dispute, obviously, over the decision not to supply Mike Ashley's company will now be resolved during a forthcoming court case, but with the current supply arrangement now discontinued. But yeah, I still say it's all about publicity for Mike Ashley. He just likes to promote his sports brand using our club every now and then. Yeah,
because you can't have a leg to stand on, can he, in terms of Newcastle will be lawyered up properly and they'll know the situation inside out. So they know he probably can't win, and he probably knows he can't win. But as you say, bad publicity is better than no publicity, to coin the old sort of Malcolm McLaren sort of ethos, isn't it, So yeah, that's probably why he's doing it, just to sort of get his name in the paper and publicise Sports Direct. I mean, the fact we're doing it now tells you all you need to know. Yeah.
And Ramsdale, interesting link with Ramsdale over the weekend. As I said to you, Barry Hogan's up to 88 players, I think, at the last count, who've already been linked with Newcastle in a transfer window that doesn't open for a few weeks yet. In response to the claims online that the deal had been agreed between Newcastle and Arsenal, Aaron Ramsdale simply said, "News to me." So agents, do you think, already starting the merry-go-round?
Well, I think there's Graham Bailey mentioned it as well, and he's pretty accurate, isn't he? He's from up here and he knows he's got his ear to the ground. Depends on the fee. I mean, he wouldn't be my first choice. I know they're all talking about Mamashvili, if I pronounced it correctly. He would definitely be my first choice.
I was going to say bless you there when you said that.
Thank you. Yeah. You were talking about goalkeepers earlier on, going back to almost the beginning of the show in some respects. Goalkeepers win titles. Famously, Brian Clough in the 2-point era said Peter Shilton saved 16 points a season. And Ray Clements did the same for Liverpool. Seaman did the same for Arsenal. Schmeichel did the same. And, of course, you've got Edison and Alisson. All world-class, truly great goalkeepers of their eras, and Czech as well, of course, sorry. So all good teams have a truly outstanding goalkeeper. And we need one. And Ramsey's not that. He's a very good goalkeeper. Very good, but he's not world-class. They were all world-class goalkeepers, truly world-class goalkeepers. And I would be aiming for the higher level. And if you can get Mamashvili at that level, which he seems to be, then go and spend the extra money is what I would suggest, and do it properly. Because Nick Pope will be an incredible number 2 when you think about it. You could play him in the cup games and you would have no qualms whatsoever. You would have no worries. Not a job. Top keeper. So
and just obviously we mentioned we're going to Australia, but in part of the pre-season we mentioned Japan last week, and the Daily Mail were reporting over the weekend that Eddie Howe's side are going to follow in the footsteps of Arsenal and head to the HQ of our forthcoming kit providers, Adidas. And, what do you make of that?
Yeah, it must have something to do with the launch, or there's something to do with the whole process. It must be obviously part of the deal, and I think long term Newcastle's training ground will look something along those lines. I think you'll have all of that kit in there, and it'll look super duper. It's just very, very impressive. Part of the whole brand thing. It's obviously part of the deal. I think it's part of the long-term future, and that's obviously part of the deal. It looks great. It looks magnificent in terms of having watched clips of it. So yeah, very impressive and good idea. And also, it's behind everything, so people don't get to see what Howe's planning to do and the whole training process. So yeah, I love it. I think it's a great concept. Really, really good idea. Really good, and it also embeds us even further in with Adidas. So yeah.
And we had a bit of silverware as well since we last spoke. Newcastle's under-21s took on Blythe Town in the Northumberland Senior Cup, and they came out 2-1 winners with Parkinson and Diallo scoring a penalty to win the trophy. And I tell you what, again, you know, from Newcastle's point of view, there is a few good youngsters coming through that team. Harrison, of course, we know has been highly revered at
looks great, doesn't he?
He looks a player, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's. For me, when we talk about players that will keep and go, he's possibly the one. Well, he's not possibly. He certainly is, because City rated him so highly and didn't want him to go. And I think they've got like a 40% sell-on clause. That's how highly they rated him. He's probably gonna get in the first team squad next year, which might free up then one of the players to be gone. You know, one of the players can go because of the fact that he's going to force his way in. You know. I know who I think should be gone, but that's another issue. And yeah, I think he's got a real, he's got a massive chance. He looked great. He's quick. He's left-footed, but he can play with his right as well. He seems to have everything about him. They really, really rated him massively at Man City. That tells you all you need to know about how good he can be. He's got that potential to be a superstar. So I'm very excited. There's some really good youngsters coming through. There's 3 or 4 really jump out at you. When was the last time we could see that? 92? You know? I mean, man, you had their class of 92, but so did Newcastle, which never gets mentioned. 91, 92. So, yeah, it's looking really, really promising. Really, really promising. At last, we're starting to get a little bit of a conveyor belt of really good players starting to come through. Really good players. I mean, the Mileys alone could create a whole dynasty. You know?
Yeah, of course it could. Of course it could. I just want to give a mention to the end of season do taking place 20th of July in aid of Dementia Matters. Supermat and Gibbo, George, and the Long Sands on stage. Tickets from NewcastleLegends.com or NUFCMatters.com, and tickets are £10. And Rob Lee and John Gibson will be at the City Hall Friday, the 2nd of August. Tickets are available from Ticketmaster.co.uk for that event. Don't miss out. Going to be 2 cracking events, those. And we will be back next week with a season review, Sid. So I shall send you some questions and you can start scribbling, mate, over the next 7 days. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Look forward to it. Take care, folks. Look after yourself. Bye-bye.